Welcome back to another episode of the Basalon Cycling Podcast. I'm your host Sherry and my co-host Gerion.
Hello, hello.
So, TCR, we have the winners. First finishers in. It was a very interesting edition with Robin Gapelle taking the overall win. First across the line in 10 days and 8 hours. And Sarah Boslet, the first woman across the line in 12 days and 11 hours. And we also have the first pair in Remy and Margarita in around 14 hours. So
14 days, huh?
14 days, 14 hours will have been too quick, not to cross the continent 5,000 kilometers. Not even on a car. So yeah, it's been a very interesting edition, and we're gonna do a bit of a race recap and also an analysis, all the stats you are looking for. Let's start with the race winner, Robin Gapelle. Unfortunately, we don't have his Strava data because it's private, but we have the second, Nicolas Chatelet, and the third, Jocelyn Roth.
Yeah, very interesting insights indeed.
Yeah, for example, we can see like Jocelyn Roth, he documented pretty well his journey through Transcontinental race, and we can see the first day he pushed like a weighted average of 235 watts for 690 kilometers. That was very impressive, going around 28.1 kilometers an hour. And then Nicolas Chatelet, who finished second in the end, he seems like a lighter, smaller rider, around 195 watts, pushing a similar average speed, 28.6.
Yeah, you can see the very different approaches. Jocelyn a bit heavier, Nicolas is very aero, his setup is really dialed, we can talk about it later, but yeah, you see a massive gap. It's like 40 plus watts difference in normalized power just from different setup and weight. It's quite interesting to see.
Yeah, what do you guess was Robin's power numbers? It's like a bit like Pogacar, 7 watts per kilo.
No, I think Robin must have been around 200 watts. He was a bit quicker. I think his setup is not as aero as Nicolas, but he's probably the similar weight. So I would assume it a bit higher, like 200 watts.
But he's a much smaller and lighter rider than Jocelyn. For example, I think you told me he was like a hockey player, so he's a big guy.
Yeah, he's certainly a different frame than Robin, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of interesting setups. So this year, our predictions were right. A lot of riders opting for more aero-optimized setup. For example, Robin Gapelle, the race winner, had a R&D Apidura full frame back on his Scott road bike, and then he has always a minimalistic setup and also had the aero top tube bag. So, and then what stood out the most for me was the bottles. He had like a bladder, like a base layer. I guess it wasn't a bladder suit. It was like a base layer underneath. And then he stuffed everything at the front, like the bottles. We saw also that already Victor Bossoni doing it in Tour Dubai, and now Robin Gapelle. But why is that? Because it can save you up to like, what, 10 watts?
Probably, yeah. Beer belly is certainly aero, so everybody's trying to emulate that. Yeah, we certainly see that in the latest races, that aero trends that were introduced in triathlon but then banned in triathlon for looking ridiculous are now being applied to ultra. So it's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, and talking about extreme aero setup, we saw that Aerobird lost his shield. He started with like this shield bike, like DIY fairings, but seems like at the end of the race he lost his front fairing. The rear one was still there, and it seems like he switched his disc wheel that we could see in his first video of his setup for like a conventional wheel. Maybe too much side wind or maybe too heavy.
Probably the start and the end of DIY fairings, but yeah, we will see.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it would be aero much more important, but this year's Transcontinental 2026 parcours seemed brutal. A lot of off-road, like rough terrain, going through fields, grass, meadows. I don't know, some people said, I think one of the top guys just coped like he'd rather bring a mountain bike next time.
Yeah, I mean, you have some pictures to share. It's quite incredible to see what kind of surfaces and situations riders had to navigate this year. I mean, we saw some broken bones on the parcours as well, which is of course always a bit sad to follow. So get well to Malta.
Yeah, broken bones and broken cranks and bikes, like the mechanicals after, especially parkour 2A and 2B that had the most like kind of like rough and rocks descending and everything. I think we saw a lot of mechanicals after that parkour, and also some of the top guys. I think Jonas Perez that was third for most of the race after the parkour in Albania broke his carbon crank.
Yeah, certainly up there. And it took him a while, right? He did like a triangular hunt for a new crank before he could continue, and it cost him a few places on the end.
Yeah, he ended up top 10, I think. So still a pretty good result. But we see like this year was a bit slower. For example, Robin's average speed was 24.1, the average moving speed for 4,695 kilometers. But last year, Victor Bossoni, that was like a longer route, seemingly like 4,800 kilometers, was nearly 2 kilometers faster average moving speed, 26.6.
Yeah, and what's quite interesting is that there was a bit of a difference between the women and the men's. Last year, Victor was clearly faster in terms of moving speed, but had a much longer idle time than Robin this year. But in the women's, it was actually the other way around. Jana was more efficient, had less idle time than Sarah this year, but Jana went slower last year, and they were roughly about the same kilometers per day. So yeah, good performance from Sarah as well in terms of kilometers per day, very comparable to last year. So relatively speaking, probably even a bit faster than Robin versus Victor last year.
Yeah, exactly. And she did an amazing job, and especially such a story like she was riding for her partner who unfortunately passed away for Mohit. So such an amazing story that she said. It makes me also a bit emotional to think about that he was there with her all the time.
Yeah.
So beautiful that she managed to take the win this year.
Yeah, very moving story.
Yeah, and also we can see that actually she rested more indoors. It was a mix more of staying outside, but mostly in hotels. So we see that every year people tend to like stay more indoors, like hotels, instead of just being outside, etc., and prioritizing recovery, and they end up going faster at the end.
Yeah, it's certainly a trend. We see that across the categories. People are resting longer, idle times are going up, and speeds are going up quite significantly.
Yeah, also we saw, like, for example, this year Robin idle time was like 22%, 2 days something, and last year Victor had quite a bit, 29%, and 3 days, like nearly a day more idle time, prioritizing sleeping, but then going like 2 kilometers faster.
Yeah, it's very, very different approach.
Yeah, I think in our experience, when we did our first TCR number 9, we fell into the trap or like, cutting on sleep to try to move up positions. But then on the TCR number 10, when we returned, we agreed that we will stay more in hotels and prioritize recovery. And we rode faster and we end up in the same position, like top 20.
Practically also the same kilometers per day. So it's... and it's more enjoyable for sure.
Yeah, and definitely the recovery takes less after you recover more. For example, the first Transcontinental we did, it took us like months to recover. And this one, the last one, we were kind of okay.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah, so I think it's changing a lot. The trends also, what we said, the professionalization, more aero setup, sponsor athletes, you can see that it's getting a bit more serious.
Yeah, certainly. You see the setups across the field are getting more professional, more aero, more skin suits, more aero bottles stuffed into the jerseys, and aero helmets and all kinds of things.
Yeah, what I also find interesting is like the route planning. We saw also our prediction that the people will follow more or less the same routes. There was not as much variation this year as in previous editions of Transcontinental race because, like AI, all the softwares, we saw most people actually end up following Robin's route. There were, of course, your outliers qualifiers, but we saw the top favorites, and Sarah and Camille, the second one, were like really close together all the time. It was like an interesting battle. They were only a few kilometers apart, and they follow in some variations, but pretty similar route to Robin.
Yeah, and I think what's quite interesting is the women were kind of following each other on a different trajectory than the men. So you had a bit of a split up over the Balkans of the two fields. The women kind of on the same route, and then the men kind of on the same route, and then converging back together in Greece. Which was quite interesting to follow. But I don't think anyone followed Robin under the bridge, right?
It was quite interesting. There was a report from the Loslo team that they saw a light going under a bridge, and they realized it was Robin because the bridge was banned. But of course, the bridge is banned, but not under the bridge. So he decided to cross the river because he said he doesn't have a problem crossing rivers after Silk Road mountain race, which I totally get. So he said, yeah, I just cross the river, the bridge is banned, so I just go under the river, under the bridge to cross the river.
Very creative. But you see that kind of approach also playing out in the total stats. Robin had the shortest route in the top three, and Nicolas was actually faster than Robin moving, but had much more idle time. But if you just look at the difference in idle time, he would have still beaten Robin, just based on kilometers and moving speed. So it was a combination of having a longer route and resting more. But in the end, there was one controversy with his route as well, because he took a banned border crossing in, I think it was Kosovo. And so we still are waiting for whatever penalties might pan out there. So we might see a bit of a shake-up in the top three in the men's.
But let's talk about the most interesting setups. I love the creativity of people. We see even wooden bikes. I wonder if that what made it to Kalamata.
Yeah, but I think this year was especially treacherous on the setups. We saw a lot of DNFs this year. You might argue that's due to mechanicals, but we don't know in a very granular way. But we've seen a lot of stories of people with broken cranks, broken wheels, broken frames, all kinds of issues. So yeah, it was certainly a treacherous one when it comes to equipment. But yeah, let's talk about the top riders' bikes, no?
Yeah, exactly. We can see, as I mentioned before, Robin was riding, I think, a Scott bike with a R&D full frame back, bladder, bottles at the front, and a minimalistic lightweight setup.
Yeah, that's lightweight, very light bike, light carbon wheels with integrated carbon spokes. So he was gambling a bit, because if you break a spoke on these wheels, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can replace. So he went full on risk, and
paid off.
Paid off. And he's an exceptional bike handler, so he was probably gambling a bit on that. I mean, he was on road tires. There were people on gravel bikes, gravel tires, and I didn't see him having any bigger issues with the tires or with the bike. So
yeah, judging from his performance on Atlas Mountain Race with a stick for bike, like gravel bike, I don't know, and he was descending the donkey trail that it took me hours to walk. It was insane seeing him descend.
Yeah, he rode sections on a gravel bike without suspension that I did not ride on a mountain bike with a 100mm suspension. So
definitely a good bike handler. And then in the second position, Nicolas Chatelet, he had like a more conventional setup, I will say.
More conventional in a way. I mean, he had a Cervelo S5, so a very, very aero bike, custom aero bars, or custom. I think he didn't use the Cervelo ones. He used the Aero Coach ones, so quite expensive but pretty good ones. Time trial specialist aero bars. I don't know how he managed to fit them on there, but looks really aero. His saddle is very far forward. If you look at the picture, I mean, it looks like on a time trial bike. He has a saddle practically at the bottom bracket, so he sits over the bottom bracket, so it's a full-on aero position. The bags are all integrated for aero. He's wearing a skin suit, very much optimized setup, so not surprised yet the fastest moving speed.
Yeah, exactly. And also we see again a long top tube bag.
Yeah.
Three podium guys had long top tube bags, huh?
Yeah. Jocelyn, his setup was a bit more traditional, I would say,
Yeah.
with saddlebag, full frame bag as well, I think.
I'm
no,
not sure.
no, actually, he had a frame bag, long top tube bag, aero bar bag, some standard. I think it was like standard skis on the on the bike.
Cargo pockets.
Cargo pockets. Jersey and bibs, so he definitely left some watts on the on the course there. Yeah?
Yeah, we also saw quite a few tail fin bags and aero bar bags.
Yeah.
I mean, Sarah Boslett had like a full cycle light setup with aero bar bag, and we also saw like some DIY aero bar bags that look pretty good.
Yeah, and a lot of tail fins. So there's certainly a trend of probably carrying more nutrition. I don't know, maybe sleeping kit, but we see that carrying a bit more seems to be quite common. So it's either extremely minimalist, like the guys at the front, where you're like, okay, do you even have a spare pair of bib shorts, or carrying more or less the whole house to be self-sufficient now?
Yeah, Martin Moritz, that was second last year, and this year he ended up in fifth. So he started quite strong and then kind of faded away. He also had like a skin suit and fully aero with a full frame back, and then the bottles at the back, like Christoph Strass. Unfortunately, Christoph this year DNF pretty early on in the race because of sickness. We saw also Jana dropping to ride as a pair. So yeah, quite a lot of the favorites at the start of the race drop off.
Yeah, I think Martin Moritz, he had a bit of an issue there, like started very strong, then had some mini crisis, and then started racing again.
Yeah.
But yeah, his setup certainly even more optimized than last year, with skin suit, Canyon aero bike, and very aero bags. So very professional.
Yeah, and we also see some traditional TCR hacks trying to fix tires. I mean, you really have to be creative on how to manage the heat, putting calipo on the socks. That was a really fun one, I will say. And now let's talk about what's coming up next. So Silk Road is starting 15th of August. I think it's going to be interesting with Justinas Levaika returning, and also we have riders like Angus Young. That's a really nice race. I think it's pretty epic, the mountain races.
Very stacked field this year. Even Sofianis is returning to racing after after his quite adventurous record attempt. So he's back. Good to see that. And yeah, it's stacked field.
Yeah, for Silk Road. And then we also have Badlands coming up soon.
Badlands, the annual crossover race between gravel and ultra. I haven't seen the start list yet, but it's the new route that is not point to point, but is starting and finishing in Granada. So
that's quite cool.
Yeah, it's quite cool. It's a bit longer, it's a bit harder. I'm hearing from people, and it's always stacked. There's always strong riders. I think the fastest guys are probably going to finish it in 34-35 hours, something like that. And yeah, we're going to see if the trend of bigger tires and suspension is also going to play out there, or if we're seeing traditional gravel bikes being raced across the top field.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is one of my favorite events because it really brings so much to the community, the local community. Like you go to the bars and everybody knows about the race. It's such a nice vibe. I think it's pretty unique in that regard. Of course, the landscape, like riding in the desert, that's pretty epic, I would say. And also, we will do together the new mountain race, Taurus mountain race in October. I'm really excited about that. Will be our first time racing as a pair of road.
Officially.
Officially, yeah. So let's see how it goes. It's going to be fun, I think. There's going to be a lot of drama.
I mean, after creating a trend, obviously, with our pairing up at Atlas, now being copied by Jana in TCR, we are officially starting as a pair for Taurus. It's going to be interesting.
I think pairs racing is on trend. Yeah,
an exciting one. I mean, it's a first edition. We don't know the route yet. The route is only going to be published 2 days before the race, so nobody knows.
No clue
what's coming up. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm definitely practicing my mountain bike skills, and also like we doing more strength training. I think we didn't do that for Atlas, and I really pay for it. So this year I'm really trying to prepare and also hit adaptation. Really trying to maximize everything I can right now. So it's gonna be a really fun adventure. I mean, I've never done a first edition, and I think that's always special because nobody has an advantage. It's kind of a plain feel, and it's also a surprise, also feels more authentic. I think when we did Atlas, it's still adventures, but now the locals know more about it, and there's maybe more infrastructure around the race. But here is like, okay, it's just going into the unknown.
Yeah, and in Atlas there was, practically speaking, little oases across the route now. So there were locals on the top of the mountain in the middle of nowhere because they understood, oh, there's this race and people are going to buy stuff. So they set up this like mini aid stations where they were selling Coca-Cola and water and Snickers bars. And so it was less problematic to source supplies, practically speaking, and that kind of takes away a bit the adventure aspect of it. It makes it more of a gravel ultra kind of race. So yeah, curious to see how it is in the Taurus mountains.
Yeah, it was quite funny. There was like this guy in the middle of nowhere at the top of the mountain with like everything. He had yogurt, tuna, all the ultra cycling staples. And a few kilometers down the road, then you bump into three more guys. Of course, the guy at the top of the mountain caught all the riders already. You see how things change after a few editions of the races. And we also have something really exciting for next year. And already you can start working on it this year. Brest-Paris 2027. This has to be one of my favorite events. Like every 4 years, you have Brest-Paris is like a cycling party, a celebration of cycling and community. And for me, it's really like what randonneuring and adventure is about, sharing it with people from around the world who share passion, I would say. And you can start doing the qualifiers, people from around the world. You have like brevets now even in Colombia, which is really cool to see. I think they started last year with Randonneurs Colombia, so it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, and maybe for people who want to participate, it's important you have to do a brevet this year, no?
Yeah, so starts the qualification. So you have the randomer series like 200, 300, 400, I think, and 600. And then there's different slots. So there's different time slots. And you have priority to start if you do, I think, already a long brevet already now. But the qualifier brevets you have, I think, until next year to complete them. But if you want to be in the first wave that I think is February, I'm not sure, then you have to complete around this time already the long brevet. It can be, I mean, the longer it is, the more up in the list you can choose your starting slot. So if you want to be in the first group, I will say doing one of the 1,000 or 1,200 kilometers brevets. And they also started doing some gravel brevets in the Netherlands. That's pretty nice, huh?
Yeah, very nice. And I think we are doing the 600 this year.
Yeah, we're doing starting with a 600 brevet. Is gonna be exciting.
Yeah, so next year not group 1 again.
No, we did group 1 already. It was a fun experience, but I think this time we will try to immerse ourselves more into the randonneuring party and also like to make a video. So stay tuned.
And it's a new route.
Yeah, it's true, huh?
Yeah, they changed the route a bit. So the route that they used for the last, I don't know, 20 years, they modified a bit. So the route is now not going a lot the same way back and forth, but it's going to Brest a bit more south and back a bit more north. So yeah, exciting.
That's exciting. So let me know in the comments. Do you know about any cool brevets to do or ultra cycling events you would like us to talk about? Leave a comment below and stay tuned for more episodes of the Basalong Cycling Podcast. Don't forget to check all the links in the description and exclusive discounts. Until the next adventure.